to the grandkids, but they don't go inside.
As long as you believe you get more stuff.
That's right.
Are you responsible for everything as well? Yeah.
They're in the safe.
Hopefully I won't forget to turn this. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Everyone, yeah, so.
I just read it.
I came up from upside down, all the way up like all down. And I got back to the I think I left my phone home. Sure enough, I had.
Yeah.
So,
Everyone else is out of here.
well, at least then I don't have to worry about using it against me.
Yeah.
You think so?
It's funny, why leave my phone?
Is that your GPS?
Uh-huh.
Just like your GPS. Your state's really good.
Oh, gosh.
Later.
34 years of driving charter buses when I first got it. We had Kansas, that thing at GPS, and then after that came
Yeah,
out.
right in here later.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a new laptop, my daughter hooked me up with this chat.
That's what it is, right?
I'm like, where's this thing at? I'm like, that thing's a lot of information.
And some dumb. Now we live in our kind of last You didn't have to laugh.
I've been married 48 years, I know.
Well, women are really wealthy. My daughter's one of them. She rules the roost. And they can show. What's running? You, what's running?
Whoa, right on.
Are you ready? Okay.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order, 6:01. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Gallagher.
Here.
Gallagher.
Here.
Jacoby.
Present.
Scarborough.
Here.
Page.
Here.
Showers.
Here.
Freeman.
Present.
Olson.
Here.
All right, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum and a full house. All right, I'll accept motions for the approval of the consent agenda
So moved.
and a second.
Second,
Okay,
but we just notate the spelling correction on.
There was a spelling correction in the minutes that I will correct.
DN, or should be DNR report.
okay. We've got that discussion over with. Any further discussion before we call the roll? Clerk, call the roll.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Jacoby.
Yes.
Scarborough.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Showers.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor's comments. I need for us to go into closed session. I need pursuant to 610.021 subsection 1
So moved.
Second.
and clerk call the roll.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Jacoby.
Yes.
Scarborough.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Showers.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. We are going to I head to my office for closed session, and Glenn, will you join us?
Yes,
No.
Well, you want me, I'll be here, if not, I'll set up. How are you?
Just gonna take off.
I wouldn't want that.
Is this gonna take a long time? I don't think so.
She went into closed session, buddy. Can I help you with something? Okay, she'll be back out. I'm not sure how long.
There's not many.
What a disaster.
Matt, can you swear in our new officer tomorrow?
Yeah, I had his oath ready to go, but I don't know what date's put on it.
Yeah, I think Lisa put Friday as his hire date or whatever.
That's fine. But I put there's a date I put on.
Yeah.
I mean, all that.
I mean, she can do it, right? If, like, in the future, if you're not here, I think she had said that she didn't have that oath.
I haven't visualized it. There was no reason for the guy to do it.
They're just-
I guess she could probably do it as my designee. I mean,
It's not a big deal.
Debbie did it.
did you ever do it?
Like if somebody,
Yeah, I knew the assistant had that before.
hits you from behind, if you're not expecting it, how bad that can hurt. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
I mean, it took that guy who's 300 pounds.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it's not that big a deal. That's-
Literally diving like down his lower half.
Thank God.
No,
Like king times.
He clearly don't.
Yeah, that's what it
Need to get
is.
sword.
Then that hit, oh,
Yeah, I've heard it.
that helmet on helmet hit.
Oh, you see the plastic one?
I did not see that.
Yeah, that's,
No, hit you with
That
it.
made me sick right beside it.
What about the game before, when the Chief Rice took that hit, the game before, did they find that guy?
That just got released today. Hold on, let me answer it. What happened?
How could they not?
You know, how you just look at the headline, I think the headline was that they, that guy's got fined a ton and they went through all that. This is not crazy, I don't think they fined him.
Did you see 2 weeks before, they fined Pacheco $46,000 for lowering his head on a run?
I missed that, no.
Yeah, look up 3 games ago. He was going out to the sideline and he kind of lowered his head and hit the guy going out of bounds.
Seriously,
They fined him $46,000
on offense, like,
on offense.
I don't,
So how do you not, the worst hit I've seen was the one on Rice 2 games ago.
yeah.
That was blatant.
Yes.
Defenseless receiver. Like, I've never seen it not called, actually.
Now, I better if I'm thinking, I mean, I was looking fast, but something hit today that was, I think it was no fine. Tell me if I'm right.
So between $45,000 and $46,500.
which is significantly higher than standard office.
Which guy, which?
Pacheco.
Oh.
It'll show, you can look it up, it'll show you the play.
Uh,
It was very nondescript.
Do they find the rats for bad calls?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Should.
Kansas, we just don't have any sympathy.
Yeah.
There's no sympathy
That's
for the
true.
Chiefs.
I don't feel like they could have said,
It just needs
if
to
we
be
made it to the
fair,
playoffs this year,
right?
that we got had some help from the rats.
Used to be the Patriots had those.
Yeah, we're the Patriots now. Oh, that's what I mean.
Who's the
Look it up.
shoulder?
Look it up, see what they find Pacheco 3 weeks ago.
But I never thought that was even a thing, that you got the ball and you're running with it, that you really are in the same position as a defenseless receiver or
You're
whatever.
not supposed
He
to.
just
fall
lowered
in
his
there.
shoulder.
That's really frustrating.
46. What?
That doesn't make any sense.
Compared to the hit 2 weeks ago that Rice took, which was
That doesn't
helmet
make
to
any
helmet.
sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Rice
there's a man
falling.
flying at him right there,
Yeah.
and he put his shoulder down.
Yes.
That's super weird. Wow.
Hard to- You didn't even know he got
No,
fined, did you?
no
No.
idea. No clue.
I just saw it across the screen one morning. I said, what are they talking
It's crazy.
about? The guy from Houston's hit was the most egregious I thought.
Just to give you all guys a heads up, when you get to that point in the meeting, we're gonna call Phil Robert, city attorney. He's gonna, I think, give a little synopsis, and answer questions. And I would kind of do the same thing for you guys.
Yep.
If and when something comes up, there's
Sure.
a question for you guys will just come up to the podium. Then I'll give you one.
Perfect. Do you still want insurance? Or do you?
When you come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those questions?
Help me.
Fair. Chris will have some.
My report is going to be.
Right.
What we've done so far, go over Doug's report. I think we should.
But honest,
Sure.
For 30, 45 minutes, so. Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of that, so I remember.
what is it?
You've got too much music.
And I'm just hoping that
Understood.
I don't have backup tonight, so I've got to get in this up.
I was gonna offer you a protein bar, but I realized I just left this in my bag because I was 2020, sometimes you feel better. We had to do protein work. Certain cities will have. Certain times. I always make sure protein. It's what survival. Certainly, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah.
Clearly. Yeah. I will survive. How's the year?
To the market, I think we're gonna,
What was the stock price? The total price?
Joe's probably more into that, but I think it's the product.
Yeah.
Just, the demand on that big. Just kind of. We got more inventory mostly, so. I think that helped, but. With the economy out there, like, I don't know, like, on the loss or no choice. We got too much, just.
Yeah.
The next wasn't right for us. Although the rental side, there was picked up.
Most terrible we want to get on that. Weird.
They're all mostly long-term.
Correct.
They don't do short-term, so. 1 to 3 years. Last year was probably our worst first quarter. This year is well. New business, it's all time.
Oh.
We've been here the best.
Yep.
Everything, but it's just a month for it.
Yep.
So it's nice. We did this.
Whatever you plan for, it won't be right, so you gotta be as flexible as possible.
We've always, really, that's the argument for the hotel.
Yeah.
That's what they don't want to do.
Right, part of that,
Yeah, they should. The production schedule is just that, the market is. That's really. That's really one of our biggest challenges. See, that's bad for us. Yeah. What's your list? Prompt. Structure. Yeah. It's probably at least once a year. Yeah. That's why we have the most, the blood loss. It's all. But that's what's down. So. I think I said ATVs are really stuff. What do you do? It's construction. Construction. Did you? I got trucks. Do you outfit them with them, or you just? Sometimes they'll customize it that on it. Just anything on the job site. They don't have water tanks, that's one of our things. Water trucks or one of our things. Clean control. Which tank can do it, water tanks. Pretty simple. But yeah, anything you can picture on the water system. Construction site. Ooh. Trucks, ready to go. They have tools and gloves and everything. Get out there, right? Ooh. It's probably more than that, but it's. Takes me back to. Yeah. You go shopping from the car. That's cool, I guess.
stressful. It's a lot.
What's that? It's really stressful, it's a lot of pain. That's fun. Making sure that the parents stay back in like the break room or something. Last year, they kind of overbearing.
Right.
They weren't really, they got what they wanted.
Yeah, being all influenced. Sheriff,
Smart.
little kid that got hacked.
Yeah, yeah. It's just real work. Yeah.
That's a project in itself.
Yeah, we used to use Target last year. We're like Walmart. Yeah.
Did you guys do that? Like, this, my sister sent me a text, she said, I'm not sure quite sure what's happening at Walmart today, but there's a bunch of policemen and women.
Shop with
Yeah.
Each of the youth shopping cart of things young people are picking out. And I get that historic learning back in the
Yeah.
70s.
Chocolate cup.
That's cool. She's like, I'm not sure, that was Saturday, she was like, I'm not sure what's happening.
Probably like Liberty, right there.
Yeah.
You live by, I live by some Georgia, so.
Yeah. That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Probably. Yeah, yeah, it sounds like. Yeah, see, I'd rather do it on a weekday too. I think we are this year. Usually it's like a Saturday morning, it's just a madhouse and there's no stores.
I mean, really, any time right now.
Yeah, next Monday night, I guess.
Oh, that's what it is? Oh.
What's asleep?
Put that one that says.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
I forgot to tell you, but I've got brownies back there. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring them up here.
Motion to come out of closed session. Thank you, Glenn.
Make a motion to come out of closed session.
There you go. Wait for it.
Second.
She was just grabbing something out of the locker.
Get the brownies.
This is just to bother everyone while we're sitting here.
So it said smell it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then instead of to make this quick.
We step in.
Yes.
Clerk call the roll.
Callaghan.
Yes.
Callaghan. Yes.
Kobe,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any public comments or guests? Alderman comments? John?
I will just notate or just FYI for everyone, we did receive payment from principal funds from the sale of stock that we asked to do last month, and the month before that, it finally came through. We received a check for $27,982.74.
Okay. Any other comments from any?
I was just gonna say, I brought brownies to apologize for missing personnel committee. Miscommunication happened, I got confused. So I was not here, so for the people who showed up and I was not here, I'm sorry. So I brought brownies for everybody. So please take a brownie, bring it home with you. I forgot to bring napkins or plates, so just get ready to get messy, I guess.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay,
Stephanie.
yes, Parks and Recreation, the mayor lighting went very well. There was over 30 people who attended. And again, thanks to Chris and his crew for making it happen. And the ladies that were volunteering to cook the cookies, we appreciate that. So it was a good turnout. And thanks to Santa being on the fire truck. Quite fascinating.
All righty. Old business, anyone?
Yeah, old business. So for the Parks and Recreation, there's been only a few people who've given feedback for the 4 surveys I sent out earlier this month through the newsletter. And again, I would greatly appreciate feedback from our councilmen and women. And if I need to put together a QR code so people can use it on their phone to do the survey, I'll keep sending it out. I mean, there's about 2 or 3 people, but there's like, what, about 2,000 people here. If we at least get 20 people, that's like 1% if you're lucky, or 10. So, and that includes councilmen and the mayor, just filling out the survey so we have some type of input. But from what I can see, a day in the park, some people want to keep it as day in the park. There is interest in the World Cup, basically renting out their home for that time and putting together a seminar. So, and I hadn't really heard any feedback about, was it Little Mr. and Miss Pleasant Valley Northland pageant. So any feedback would be great. So thank you. That's it.
We'll keep, putting it in the flyer as well,
Yeah.
reminding.
And if there's
Residents.
any way to put it electronically when people go to Pleasant Valley, if I need to do a QR code and send it to you, Matthew, I'll do it.
That's something that in my report that we're looking at going to a new vendor for the city website. I
Okay.
think it's gonna be much easier to do things like that.
Yeah, because like it would be nice to have this up, and then I talked to Clerk Matthew. My son's enjoying your business, so great customer service over there. But I have a family emergency and I need to get home, so I know I have a meeting Wednesday for Parks and Recreation. I'd like to implement Zoom if there's a possibility for that. So.
And when are you leaving?
I would have to leave literally tomorrow to get where I need to be by Wednesday.
Okay. All right, any professional services? Advisory committee, administration?
I mentioned about the possible change to the city website. Had a written report. Haven't had anything additional to add unless there are questions.
Just a quick question on that. I assume you'll probably brief us when you have more. Right now, we're just in the really early phases of looking at what vendors are available for that.
Yeah, the one that we are most interested in, right now we're paying about $2,400 a year for website, for an annual fee for our website. That's gonna go up to, they're changing their platform that we're on, Civic Plus right now.
Okay.
That fee is gonna go from $2,400 to $5,000 with an additional $5,000 to implement the new website.
Okay.
So what I thought was gonna be a small cost savings, because the new company is gonna do it for $1,700. So a small cost savings going from $2,400 to $1,700, now it's potentially going from, if we stayed with Civic Plus, it's gonna be $10,000 for that first year.
Mhm.
If we go with Unisabit, because I think the name of the company will be 17.
And does that yearly cost include updates to the website, or are we responsible for all updates and they just host it?
I don't know that we've had specifically asked them for an update and they haven't offered us an update. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe is what's causing the steep increase now.
Is for
It could
updates.
very well be that update.
Okay, yeah. If you have any questions, let me know. And Pat probably knows 10 times more than I do about it, but often with websites, 1,700 to 2,400 is really not bad and considered in the
Right.
self-employment world for having somebody run a website for you, but usually that price doesn't include updates if it's within like less than $5,000 a year. So usually looking at them updating it, like maintaining it, adding monthly, weekly updates, it can get crazy expensive. So I'd be curious to see what our current one is doing and what the new one's offering, or if we can update it ourselves and have that functionality, then I don't think we would need to pay somebody to update it for us.
Yeah, they should be able to provide us with an administrative account to do the updates.
Yeah, some places don't allow you to though, like you have to do updates, so that kind of information would be good to know, is, what we're able to do, what they provide.
I made a note. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, and I will just second that. I've heard from a lot of staff that the current website is very difficult. It's not user-friendly.
Mhm.
We have like 2 subject matter experts on it, and even with that, it's still clunky to maneuver. So from a feature standpoint, from a citizen engagement standpoint, and from a financial standpoint, it is important for us to make this change. So supportive of any recommendation that comes out. We will continue to do our due diligence on cost, features, and understanding the total base of fees and stuff. So look forward to hearing what you got coming.
So are there more than 2 that you are aware of, companies?
There's not, we haven't, met with anybody else yet. If you have somebody in mind.
No, I was just curious to know how many were out there.
I mean, it sounds like this is a specific city.
It is.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that, I'm assuming that limits it quite a lot, because there's a billion different companies that run the websites, but ones that specifically focus on cities, I assume that's part of why it's less expensive than it is for the small business world too, because the needs of a city website are usually much smaller than a point of sale or advertising website, things like that, so.
Patrick?
I wanted to ask a couple questions about the update from Devery. So in our packets, you mentioned that Devery Hunt, who is contracted by the city, so we have a contract for her to perform account reconciliation updates going back about a year and a quarter. And this is like the first update that we've gotten that says, hey, these are transactions. I think I know where they came from. They're duplicate items. Can you just run through this top to bottom to kind of help me understand? Is it?
I may.
It's part of
Julia will.
my report.
Oh, okay, it's part of your report too. Okay. I'll save it for that. But.
Can you hold off for?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anything else beyond that for Matthew? All right, fire department. Chief Keith.
Provide a written report, or run reports for last month, if anybody has any questions. And then I would just say, as everybody knows, Santa Ana Fire Truck, this is last weekend. It was, I think, a great success. A little cold, no injuries that I know of, but I think we had a lot of happy kids, so it was a good Saturday.
And how is the candy situation?
How is the candy situation? We have extra.
So, couldn't I put out in the newsletter that he sent and left some candy at City Hall and the fire department for
Sure.
anybody to come by?
I can bring some of the bags up there.
Can we take some to the nursing home? Can they eat any of that candy that's in there?
Oh, yeah, we're just gonna run and see more calls.
Well, there you go, just trying to help business.
Those numbers.
Okay, I'm done with you. Thanks. Andy, police department?
Good evening. Chief provided the car report for November. Other than that, I don't know what else we got, other than we have Shop with the Cop next Monday evening at 6 at Walmart. And we got families all picked out and everything, gotten a lot of donations, and it's been.
And are the families all from?
They're all local, yeah, and they're
Okay.
all the kids in the school district. So we get a hold of local elementary schools, and they provide us with a list of local people and families. So some of them are returning, we've had for a couple of years, and some are new, so but it's gonna be a good time.
Okay. It's great to know about that program.
Do you have an update on the radar?
The flock cameras?
No, the speed.
Oh, the speed, yeah,
radar.
we have them. We gotta weather and time for Jared and I are together. We got some free schedules, we go hang them up. And we don't really exactly know where we're gonna put them yet. The good thing with those, they're interchangeable, so we can move around the city as the.
I'd be willing to help you guys if you need assistance hanging them. If you can't work out together,
Sounds good.
well,
Yeah.
you can holler at me and
You
I'm
bet.
glad to come help.
I'll
Hold it up or mold it on and see where you hold it on.
I'll let Jared know. So yeah, we're excited to get them up. I just don't know when it'll be. So probably more springtime, I'd imagine.
Gets warmer.
Yeah.
Are you putting up any new posts?
No, I don't think so. I think those that or a tree or something like that. Yeah. So I'm just, like I said, we haven't really mapped out exactly where we're going to put it yet, but kind of have ideas, but nothing for sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have nothing from the municipal court. Public Works?
I provided a report for you all. I was asked a little while back to look into upgrading our codes. as noted in the report, we currently operate under 2012. We're looking to go to either 2018 or 2021. Not trying to have a lengthy discussion about it tonight, with all the other stuff on the agenda and all, but some of the things to consider are neighboring cities. I showed on the chart or on the report. A lot of them, you can see, went to 2018. Gladstone went to 2021. A lot of that is due to what is written in the code and how strict the updated codes are in terms, obviously, of building components and what they require. A lot of it relates to building envelope, which is mainly your it can get into structure, it can get into insulation factors. And it spreads out into all facets, electrical, plumbing, and all. When
do you anticipate having a recommendation of what version to go to? Are we
So-
talking Q1 of 26 or later?
Quarter one, probably maybe by next meeting.
Okay. And then how long from that point do you anticipate it to take to officially adopt that version of the code?
It would be me making a recommendation along with Chief Pete and I'm assuming Scott, Fire Marshal Scott. And then you guys voted to adopt it.
Okay, so we could be, with the proper research being done on what the changes are gonna be, we could be on a new version of the building code in Q1 of 26.
Yes.
Okay.
Gladstone went to 2021, they had 94 amendments, because you can amend stuff in and out of the code.
Do you anticipate coming to us with the amendments ready or with the amendments prepared later?
No, they bringing the amendments to you.
Okay.
They're all over the place, and then of course they get into residential code and commercial code.
Sure. Look forward for that update, Chris.
So I have a call into the either building official or building inspectors. I reached out to North Kansas City. He was out of the office till today, haven't heard back. Carney was a new building inspector. He's been there 4 months. He heard they went to 2018 instead of 2021 because of most of those building envelope restrictions. Liberty's building officials' mailbox was full. Kansas City left a message with the building inspector. Haven't heard back from any of those. So just before and Pete's reaching out to somebody on his end. And then once we hear back, it will give us a better idea of which one we want to throw at.
John?
For the research I'm doing, I think we want to go to 2018. I think it's going to require less overall work and it's going to get us close enough in code with all of these other municipalities. I think it'll be fully functional.
A couple of the ones that are currently on 2018 are getting ready to jump to 2021. So,
Well, maybe we stair step it. Maybe we do 2018 this year and then in a year we look at
2 years or something like that.
yeah, it's expensive because you're buying about $6,000 worth of books.
Yeah.
You're required to have a set of books at City Hall. You're required to have a library set that can be loaned to anybody, a resident or a contractor.
Yeah.
And I would be required to have a set.
Serena?
Would we be able to have maybe at the next meeting, a quick side-by-side of the difference of the 2018 versus the 2021? So then we could make maybe a decision on which one we feel would be the best to move forward with.
Potentially, I would have to purchase a 2021, that information, but you would probably also want to have the 2018 alongside the 2012.
So is the,
Wait a minute, I would like to table all of this discussion until next meeting, please.
Yeah, this is fresh, so I wasn't expecting a big.
Sure.
But we're gonna do our due diligence to present to you what
is your recommendation?
we've researched, and found out from other cities and all that.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to say quickly, because I found this out earlier today, the convenience store across from the main Ford entrance, the stall on that project was state inspectors getting there to inspect the fuel tank installation. It took 2 months and 2 weeks to get them out there. That's kind of what I mentioned when I
So that they finally got it inspected, so they should be closing the hole up.
They tore out the parking lot, part of the parking lot today. Tomorrow I do a backfill inspection prior to them backfilling the lines in the tanks. And then they'll prep the parking area for a concrete pour, and then they can move forward with what's left. So anyway, just wanted to let you know about that.
Thank you.
That's all.
Treasurer's report, Julia?
Those brownies were staring.
I was like, I meant to
They have
come
to take
early
one
so people
before I
could
sit
grab
down.
them. It did not work out that way.
So, hello. So I spent a couple days at the city when the government was still shut down. I worked with Matt and Deborah and started looking at some of what Deborah identified as bank reconciliation issues. And we looked at them together. We identified some issues and we started to gather a plan of what action to start to re-reconcile and kind of clean things up. And one of the first things that we decided to do when looking at the bank reconciliation is there were a lot of very old, outdated, outstanding checks. There are times where some of these checks were tiny for $1, $2, $57. People forget them to cash them, people lose them. I don't know if on your checks it says valid for 180 days or 190 or 90 days. Sometimes after so long, you can't even cash them. They must not say that because we've got stuff from 2015 and 16, pretty much dating back when I lived around here. And so I think kind of just to cut it off, let's get some of that old stuff written off. It's not hit our bank account, so our bank account balances hasn't been drained by this, but there's an outstanding, but the general ledger has been decreased by these checks. So the bank has more money in it than the general ledger says it is. So if we get rid of those, that's one area to clean up. And so I think that's what Deborah was trying to communicate in her report, that she wanted to let you all, or get permission to do that. The one of these is a larger one. It was the $23,000 for Midwest Public Risk Health Insurance, and I'm sure that has been paid at some point. It's been outstanding since 2024 in March, and they don't go without their money. So this must be some sort of duplicate, or it was paid somehow. So this is kind of a baby step one to get the bank started, the reconciliation starting to look cleaner. So I have more to report on our cleaning up, but do you all have any questions about that particular step?
So what I'm hearing is that for reconciliation, you are going as far back as the 2015, but you're advising that the council should have like a 180-day, like null and void for the cash if you don't cash it within 180 days.
That is something to talk with your bank about having the next time that you all buy check stock. I'm not saying you go and trash what you've got.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna add. We're in the process of switching banks, so we're going to be ordering checks now.
That would probably be wise to do. Then it's easier to write these off. Honestly, I don't think the bank is not going to cash something that's 185 days old. If it says 180 days old, the banks do not police anything. They'll cash checks that aren't signed. They'll cash checks made out to the wrong person. It's not their job anymore. Anyway, so you don't have hometown banks anymore. But I think that would be good. It makes it easier to do that because somebody has notice that sometimes I find a check that was years old and I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother. If it was large enough, you think that people would definitely notice, but sometimes it doesn't. If it's larger, I think that it could be something that we have Matt call and be like, hey, you have a $3,000 check. Did you lose it? Do we need to reissue it? You know, but these $1 and $2 checks, some people just don't even bother.
Because they're going for the special road district for $50,000. It was issued in August of 24.
Okay, but this down here, we are looking at August of 24's bank reconciliation. So that's why it's there and it's fresh there. So that's not an old outstanding. Today, if we looked at the bank rec today, that would not be on there.
Okay.
So we went back in time to where the other outstanding, if you go, I think that there was a couple pages in her. It starts on page 4 of 6, other outstanding here. When that gets really big. And we don't have all of it here. But before I get to that, I just want to ask if there's any other questions about writing off the outstanding checks.
So quick question, do we need a motion from the board to write off these checks or void these checks, or is this just a matter of informing the board?
I think since it's so far back and none of us were here, it would be wise to cover ourselves by doing that.
Do you want me to make that motion now, or should we wait towards the end of her?
No, go ahead and do it now, because we'll take issues as Julia brings them forward.
Okay, so then I will make a motion that we void the checks brought forward to the committee by Deborah Hunt. That's fine.
I second.
And those checks are older than,
The earliest, the most recent one is March 18th to 24. Or the ones that's highlighted.
Over 18 months.
So your recommendation, if we're looking at reference numbers, is 48,761 through 61,786, and the ones that are on this list.
Correct.
Not these near the bottom.
Correct.
61,855 to 62,007.
Those are more current
So
at the time.
it is just this block right here.
Correct. They are
Okay.
highlighted on the original, but the highlight doesn't come through when you make copies.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
so we have check number to check number?
Pat, could you remind me the numbers?
Yeah, 48,761. It is not contiguous. There are
That's
check numbers
fine.
in between there.
That's
But
fine.
on the report, page 3, 48,761 through page 4, 61,786.
So
Got that?
I'll amend my motion to the numbers that Pat said, because numbers are hard for me.
And
Second.
seconded? Okay. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
next.
The other, really, there's a couple other buckets of things we need to dive into. It looks from an outsider coming in that around this time moving forward, that the bank reconciliations were done by journal entry instead of actually clearing the activity within the system. There were journal entries made to clear the system. And what that ends up doing is it makes a lot of outstanding others. It starts on this page. Deborah didn't include the page 5 or page 6. And there are big amounts in here that go both ways, right? And so we have just pages of journal entries clearing things out instead of actually doing it within the system. And so what I think needs to happen, and what really the plan is we want to clean that up and get things done through the system that's created to do that. It makes it so much easier. If it's not easy necessarily to do, but if you just spend the time to do it right rather than do it by journal entry, it is easier in the long run, especially for somebody coming back in and wanting to look. You can ask, why didn't our auditors find this? Well, I think that as long as the bank statement matches at year end, that's what they're looking for, right? They're not going deep into your reconciliations and making sure they're pretty. So it reconciled, but it was done via journal entry. So we're not looking at missing money here. We're just looking kind of at the books and record part of it, really back to towards the end of 2024 being kind of sloppy. So we need to take it in little month by month and go through it and make those journal entries to undo the journal entries that were done and repost things correctly within the system. So that's not going to be fun, and it's not going to be quick. And so it's not, I can't come here in 2 weeks or in, February 1st and be like, hurrah, we're done. But the plan is for Devery to do this work, and to me to be in contact with her and get updates from her, troubleshoot questions with her. She's working alongside Matt. And as we get chunks of entries that we think we need to be made, I think I need to understand if you all want to see all the details, or maybe the finance committee wants to see the details of that journal entry. Not sure what needs to actually come to the board to be approved. We're really just undoing journal entries and making sure it's all going to flush out, right? There's not going to be big changes to the historic I don't anticipate that at this time. Changes to revenues in this bucket or that bucket, but it's a real, I'm not even sure how to describe doing books and records this way. It's very bizarre to me as a CPA to have done it this way, but it's what's been done, and we need to move forward at this point and kind of fix it, if you're following me.
So
Yeah.
I will say that I would love to see the details.
Okay.
I would like the board to see summaries of
Okay.
the changes that are happening.
I was gonna say, yeah, the details can go to the finance committee.
Right.
And then a summary.
It isn't the finance committee, the whole.
The whole board is by this
Yeah.
committee.
Well, but,
Could the details go to the finance chair,
yeah, they
and
can
then a
go.
summary be brought to the finance committee / the board?
That's
Yes.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
And so we
You
may
both
need
have-
to meet to go through the details,
I'm
so
more
you
than
can,
more than
okay.
happy to sit down with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I want to make sure I understand.
Sure, I understand, because this is, I've not seen it, I've seen a lot. I'm a forensic accountant and I've done a lot of fraud investigations. This is not a fraud that I'm seeing. That is not, I don't want your red flags. I'm not saying guaranteeing if there's nothing amiss, but right now when it comes to just reconciling the bank statement in a normal fashion, that's what we want to get to. I've not seen this reconciling via journal entry is really quite bizarre.
So just to make clear of what you're needing is you need you said 2024, you said it was sloppy up until present for the journals. And for your expertise, you're stating that because there was like a journal, like a Dear Diary moment, and it's not following like a certain software, is that what you're talking about for reconciliation? I'm just trying to understand, was someone jotting down like today I spent $500 or
The checks would go through,
okay.
right? And then instead of typically what you do is you have a check that's sent out and a bunch of checks that are sent out. And then when those clear the banks, you mark them clear. Each individual one, when it clears the bank, you mark it clear. In this example, it may be $2,000. So they made a journal entry that $2,000 cleared. rather than just marking. And so, but those checks can be outstanding or their journal, it's, I can't give you an exact example right now, but that is one of the things that we're wanting. Some of them are more clear, but not all of them. It's really hard, but it's probably not worth spending the time to try to figure out why they did it this way. We kind of know how to fix it, so I think we should just fix it and move forward.
So, and that's what I wanted to make sure you want to fix, the 2024, whatever you saw in those places, you want to reconcile them so that they match. So if we should ever get audited or any capacity that, it matches with banks and
Right.
anything else. Okay, that's what I'm hearing. So
We have a better paper trail.
yeah. So do we need to make a motion for her to do that, or are we all clear?
I think
Or
it's
we
just.
did that?
It's just
Okay.
procedure.
Yeah.
Okay, just
You're
procedure.
setting up procedures for us.
Okay.
Which is great.
Another area that's a little bit messy that Deborah's not necessarily looking into yet, is the cash balances versus pooled cash. Okay, so you all have some statutory required individual bank statements at the city. So I can remember dealing with this when I was treasurer years ago. So like Let Post, Parks and Rec, the TIF account, you all have individual bank statements. Matt knows this very well if he's trying to change banks because he's got to reset these up. So on a balance sheet that you all have for the city for each fund, the balance under the TIF bank account should be the balance that matches what the bank account says you have in cash. Well, it doesn't. So the question is, where is that money on your bank, and then you have a general fund that has pooled funds. Within that fund, you have part of it is for general, part of it is for the police, part of it is for fire, part of it is for TIF and Road and Street and Parks and Rec. Well, I can find some of the money, most of it in pooled funds, but it's not pooled funds. It is literally in its own bank account. So why is it over in pooled funds? And does your general bank account match your general bank account if it's including money that's an actually separate bank account? So this is really where the spider web gets really, really kind of confusing. But I think one of the things that we have to do to start is reconcile the bank statement. And then we can unwind the journal entries that were made between statutory accounts and pooled funds, because there shouldn't be statutory money in these bank accounts that are listed in your balance sheet as pooled funds. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, it is a tangled web that we've woven here a little bit, but I like doing this stuff. So I'm okay, perfect. I'm okay with working with you all to try to wind this. I have a day job, so it's not something that I can sit and do all day. Now, we may have another government shutdown at the end of January when we run out of funds, so I could do it all day while the government shut down again. But it's something that first we're going to work with Deborah with getting the bank reconciliations fixed, and then I can see how that plays out in your balance sheets to figure out what we need to do to adjust this. You don't want state auditors to start sniffing around if you messed up your pooled funds versus statutory. I mean, the money seems to be there, it's just not in the right bucket, which is good for forensic accountants and not fun for anybody else. Other things that I've done since I've looked at the RFP for the new city auditors, and I made a couple suggestions on the RFP draft, and then I did look over the budget and looked at the budget summary. I'm really impressed with how well the city of Pleasant Valley is doing. The budget's much more comfortable now than back in 2001 to 2010 when I was involved here. So congratulations on that. So I've done some other things other than this. So we do have a plan going forward. Does that answer the questions that you had?
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right.
Love the good work.
Thanks. I'm gonna grab a brownie and then I gotta go get my daughter from volleyball.
One for each hand.
She might actually like that. So I'm gonna
Let's
do it.
take a small break and do
a brownie and we'll come back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we can get brownies.
Motion to do that?
I'll make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second? Clerk call the roll.
Halligan.
Yes.
Halligan.
Yes.
Toby.
Yes.
Scarborough.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Thank you all.
There's still more.
Good. I was like, they were coming out of the oven when it was time for me to leave, so I was like, we're gonna see if I can figure this out.
So that's why she was a few minutes late.
I was 30 seconds late. 30 seconds.
Yeah, we started right.
She said 6:01 is when we started, okay?
Not saying-
By that clock, that clock is, gospel in this building, so.
Those clocks work really good and then they don't.
That clock is always, you have to change that.
Oh, you're the best, Matthew.
Not including daylight savings.
Typically just
Thank you, Matthew.
loses a minute on-
Okay, even if I just brought napkins, I would have been punching you brownies. What's wrong with you? Like, hey, fever over
One
here?
piece or do you care?
Not the middle piece.
That's a little faster, faster.
There you go.
So you can miss
Row
more
to
often.
power.
Yeah, I know, it's like, maybe I'm just brownies.
And Matthew, open that closet door so you go in there and get the mask off. You need it.
I'm gonna go to the corner. I really don't wanna get anybody sick, so.
And I didn't know.
And I don't want you
to get me sick.
Ooh, there's still more.
That's what she said, there's still more.
Yeah.
They're good?
I really like the hint of bourbon.
Oh, yeah, it's not even, it's a lot, just kidding.
Do you want edge? You just center or edge? It's center.
I don't understand the corner thing.
I mean, the corners are great, depending on the brownie.
Oh, yeah? Well, these are homemade, so I don't know
If it's so that-
whether it's a corner is better or.
Yeah.
Ooh, even better.
Wow.
You got any glasses of milk?
That would only, that's the only thing that makes it actually. No negatives. Other than there's.
I told you what I was gonna do. You don't got it back.
Yeah.
Well, we have more, but it's. Usually that's what water. That was everything.
It's so cold out. Yeah, I should. I guess it's not that cold today. It's warm enough.
They moved over to those new ones.
Yeah.
Withers Road.
Yeah. Building.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Get away with it.
One of them.
Yes.
It'll be Serenity's fault. And it's gonna be your fault. That'll be the first time that I've done bad.
It's all was in consent.
Okay.
Well, it's my thing.
Okay.
So you do make it right where you can.
I had one, I made one when I realized I was on cocoa butter. And then we got very close to the deadline, of getting your assignment.
No, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I guess there was two that I maybe consider.
Yeah, I went over.
Brownies are my downfall.
Count website design.
I went over my allotted.
And then it's called graphics.
I'll eat this when I get home and my beeper will be
I didn't know
on.
that was the name.
It was bad.
Yeah. Where I can understand how it's under more.
Very good brownies, thank
That's
you.
right.
Weekly.
Or nothing works.
You might not be asking.
Sitting at your desk all day.
What else?
You can go run around the office.
It's kind of like the house.
Night.
Yeah.
Reflux.
Yeah.
Stay away from.
You can imagine those hours. Yes.
If somebody wants to work with us for a job, I want to use our jobs. I didn't like.
The biggest difference is I ran out of my regular, I get like organic cane sugar. So I use the whole cane sugar, which is like Terminado. So it's raw sugar. And so it was mostly raw sugar, and I also cook with whole wheat flour, and that's the fine flour. So they just want to buy their richer.
And I like that.
We'll get it sounds good, let it good for you.
It's a little bit better for you. You're definitely getting more nutrients out of it than like a regular box brownie. Still looks like sugar though.
What's that?
What are these made with spinach or something?
No, it's Terminado, which is like raw sugar.
Okay.
And then whole wheat flour, so it's regular flour, so.
All right.
You just something fancy there.
I need the recipe then because we only use ground wheat.
Yeah. That's what I just cook with that now.
Thanks.
I just did the same ratio, it turned out well.
Your own?
Yeah, we grind our own.
All right. Where are you getting wheat at?
Different places. There's a mill somewhere in Missouri. I can't remember what it's called. Down south.
I heard that when you grind it yourself, it does cook differently.
So, and it depends on how fine you grind it.
Yeah, because mine is just
You only have one.
sprouts and
Yeah.
organic whole wheat flour.
Well, the thing is, supposedly, research is showing that after you grind it, it loses about 90% of its nutrients within, I think it's like a day or two or something,
Yeah.
something really short.
That's what my sister was telling me doing her own too, because she was like, the health benefits of grinding yourself are just crazy high.
You lose it through the air, like evaporation or
Yeah, like
something?
the oxygenation or something.
Oh, okay, like the interaction.
It's like how a banana goes brown.
Yeah.
Okay, we're making them.
Okay. Lost one.
I think he's interested because he just walked through the door.
Sorry, traveling? You going anywhere special, spectacular?
No, not for a while.
You had your big trip there?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I did a lot in 25.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I've got 2 weeks in Dolphin Island in April.
Nice. Is it all inclusive or?
It's my daughter has, and her family decided they love there. They go every year, for like 2 weeks, and I just go along. She pays for everything.
Okay, well, that's good.
Make a motion to go back in
That's
or
great.
come out
Yeah.
of break.
Okay,
Second.
call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes,
Nothing out of personnel, correct?
that's all the things on the agenda.
Okay. Finance, Patrick?
I don't really have a whole lot. You have the budget report. Awesome. The charts that we typically get at the second meeting will be emailed to everybody and then like made public for everybody to see. They just weren't more complete today. So we'll look for those over the next couple of days. But yeah, that's all I got.
Boy, that meant the 25 words or less.
Woo-hoo.
The whole run of the fever, fatigue thing.
So if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
You had a
Keep
little
that
word,
sick.
Patrick, this time.
Keep that sick.
Okay, do we have any new business? Let us take up the discussion for the term agreement for the RVP property.
I thought the first one was resolution.
No, I'm doing this under new business
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
because we haven't talked about that. Okay? Yes. Let's do it on that. We're gonna have our attorney, Joe Lauber, phone in with us in case we need to go into closed session about anything on this. And if that is the case, he will interrupt whoever's speaking and tell us that we need to make a motion to go into closed session.
The subsection would be 2.
Joe Lauber.
12.
Oh, she's
This is Joe Lauber.
Hey, Joe, it's Matthew. I've got you on speakerphone at the board meeting.
Excellent, okay.
Just hang out there for a little while. And if we have any
Everybody hear me
questions.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can we hear you?
Can you hear us, Joe?
Yep, I can hear you all pretty well, sounds like.
Okay, good. We have been talking with the attorney, Kurt Peterson, and Eric Bauer. No, I'm saying your name wrong. Buer?
Buer.
Okay. From RPPB Holdings. And we are to the point that they have asked for an agreement from us to go further into researching what they want to put on the R&L Carrier property. And that's what this term agreement is all about. It sets out the terms for going forward and kind of defining some of the things about the project. Would one of you like to speak to us on that?
I can jump in initially, Mayor, if you'd like.
Okay, that would be great, Joe.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, and members of the board. I appreciate you allowing me to participate remotely today. So what you have before you this evening is actually what we will call a terms sheet. And so what we commonly use for development projects, and I don't know if any of you were around when we did the original TIF for the R&L property. When an application comes forward, we typically do we start doing some initial due diligence, if you will, kicking the tires with respect to who the developer is, kind of what type of project they want to bring, what kind of incentives are they asking for, and we start to rough out a few terms with respect to what the deal might look like at some point in the future. Additionally, as I understand it, and Mr. Peterson can confirm in a minute, is that this particular developer needs to complete a sale of the property here pretty close to the first of the year, end of this year, first of next year, for tax reasons. And so we're also helping to provide, I think they're using the term assurances, but it's an idea of just say like, hey, we've got something that's real here, not a figment of anybody's imagination, kind of move forward. So what is before you this evening, this term sheet is designed to kind of provide the framework or a skeleton of what a potential development agreement could look like here in the near future with respect to this. But before anybody, either city or developer, starts putting any significant funds into the project, we want to make sure that when we take a look at this term sheet, that's something that the Board of Aldermen is excited about, and you kind of want us to move forward. It doesn't make a lot of sense if we go around and we do all of this work and tee it all up, and then you say, gosh, guys, this isn't even close to what we want. So that's what we're attempting to do here. So I might pause for just a second and see if there are any questions on the concept of just the term sheet, which will ultimately be rolled into a nuts and bolts development agreement, when the time comes to do the actual approval of the incentives that are being discussed this evening.
So at this point, it doesn't commit us.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was a question. So correct. I mean, it commits us to a concept. If that's probably the better way to say it, is it commits us to this concept. Like I said before, the real nuts and bolts, the actual agreement that deals with all of the details of the incentive would come to you later, but based on this outline that you see in the term sheet this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Also, then, if you'd like, I can kind of start to flesh out some of the pieces to what it is that we're doing, or what is being proposed by the applicant in this case. Hopefully everyone should have received in their packet a memo that kind of is the summary of what tonight is about. I'm going to try to hit some of the high points on that memo. It's not a very long memo, but essentially what we're looking at here is if a redevelopment agreement would be put together based on the proposed application for incentives, there would be the two parties, the city and then RPPV Holdings LLC. So as Garrett had pointed out, this is designed to essentially, once approved, it would cause the cessation of the TIF that has been out there but hasn't kind of come to fruition over the years. That would go away, and this would be a substitute approach to the development with substitute a different whole set of incentives. So if you have your memo, at the very bottom of the first page, there are 3 bullet points there. This points out it's the 16.46 acres that was the old R&L property. It's the Star TIF that, as we've known it for several years now. In this circumstance, the applicant would also propose to demolish the existing building, but for this proposed project, they would construct about a 72,000, just a little bit bigger than that, square foot commercial building, with the potential for a second phase that would be more than half again as much, so an additional 44,000 square feet of a commercial building. As I understand it, and I'm sure Mr. Peterson can put some more meat on the bones to this in a minute, this would be, essentially, it would be a comprehensive outlet for truck-related needs that include, but are not limited to, the sale and rental of vehicles and equipment, parts, the provision of maintenance. As I understand it, it's also set up to kind of be an equipping facility, and I don't know the specifics of it, but you've seen maybe before where you have a base truck that maybe rolls out of the Ford plant and it gets fitted with a cherry picker for electrical company or other types of equipment, maybe the situation here. The estimated cost, the estimated investment into the city of Pleasant Valley would be about $20.3 million by this applicant if they go forward. And now we're going to switch to that second page if you have your memo handy. And so the upfront cost of that would essentially be paid with private debt and equity, and that would be subject to a partial reimbursement then through the incentives that we're talking about. So I'm going to stop for just a second, because the next thing I want to dive into is what the incentives are and how they work and what they mean. So, but before I proceed, I want to just pause and see if there are any questions about what it is that the developer is proposing to do. And I guess with the caveat that, maybe Mr. Peterson would either jump in now or we'll jump in later to discuss further.
Mr. Peterson, you want to?
It's up to you, Mayor. If he wants to finish, I'm perfectly fine with that, and then I can address or answer questions, but it's your meeting, so.
I'm thinking, let us take this part first with you, and then we'll go to the proposed incentives.
That sounds great.
Okay.
I've seen most of you before, but just in case, my name is Kurt Peterson. I'm with Polson LA, and I get the opportunity to work with the team here on this project. We
Great.
came back, was it summer? I feel like it was summer. It was warm out. Feels like it. Yeah,
Warmer.
time flies. Yeah. It was warmer than this. Mr. Lauber, good evening. Kurt Peterson here. I guess since it's a public meeting, I'll say 900 West, 48th Place, Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you.
It's hard to know what to add to what Mr. Lauber said so far. We haven't really gotten into the incentives. Mayor, is there anything specifically that you or any of the board members would like to ask me about to elaborate so far?
I just want to, what is not addressed here is the timeline for construction after we would potentially
Absolutely.
give you a go for this project.
And I will cover that in the incentives portion too,
Oh,
Mayor,
okay.
if,
I will take a mulligan though, because you made me think of something. What I meant to say when I first came up here is, I know you all have other things to do, and this was because of our timeline and things that we're trying to, on the private side, deal with on timing. So thank you very much. This is very short notice. I will say, I have been working with Joe and his colleague Jennifer. As you know this, because we've been going back and forth for at least a couple months substantively with information. We've been working hard, but you did this for us, and we appreciate that.
Great. Well, as a board, we're very interested in entertaining more information about it. And let's now go toward the incentive project, part of it, and see what Joe has to say.
That's great. I will add one more thing,
Okay.
if you let me. Joe's right. This is just to accentuate the point that we have processes that we go through for, I won't steal a thunder and say the different incentives yet, but the different incentives. And we have to do that, and we will do that, and you make a fresh decision when we do that. That's just the way the law is. The reason this is so, we appreciate so much the opportunity to do this is because when it comes to things like, what do you think generally of our site plan, generally, right? What do you think generally of our building? What do you think about our use? What do you think generally about these incentives? It happens sometimes. If you said, I really don't like one of the things I said or any of them, then it helps a developer not move forward and buy property and be extraordinarily disappointed. So it's not the finest of fine points, as Mr. Lauber was saying, that we ask you to weigh in on, but if there's major issues, tonight, it's so valuable, in the form of that term sheet to hear it. I know everybody understands that, but it's really the point of tonight, so thank you.
Okay. Okay, Joe, you want to go ahead?
All right, so really what is being proposed by the developer, what they would like to apply for are two different types of incentives. The first comes in the form of a community improvement district, and the second comes in the form of the various elements that go into what's called a Chapter 100 incentives plan. So I'm actually going to start with the CID. It's a little maybe more common and maybe more familiar to everybody. A community improvement district, I believe, and check me if I'm wrong here on this, Kurt, but it's been a long time, but I believe we have a community improvement district, or maybe we were planning to do one if we ever got the TIF off the ground for this area. I don't know that one was ever created, but essentially it is a political subdivision that is created by the Board of Aldermen that is essentially, its boundaries are the boundaries of this project. And so if you imagine, if you know where the city limit signs of Pleasant Valley are, the CID would kind of have its own little CID city limits, and it can't exercise its jurisdiction outside of those lines in the same way that the city of Pleasant Valley can't exercise its jurisdiction outside of the city limits. The CID's scope of authority is way more limited than what the city's is, but it's still a broad option, and it's a great little tool that Missouri has in order to help developments help themselves, if you will. So the CID in this case, if it were to be formed, and again, all of this stuff is done later, subject to various ordinances of the city. So you'll down the line you'll have all kinds of checks and balances on this, but it would create this community improvement district on the area that is the property. And that among the powers of that CID is it could impose a 1% sales tax essentially it's the developer imposing a sales tax on themselves, right? So if someone were to come in and buy parts at this particular proposed use, and that might be subject to a 1% sales tax, or, they may have other things that they can sell, but essentially anything that would ring the cash register bell would create a 1% tax. That tax can only be spent within the boundaries of the CID on CID functions. And so, so this is a way that, the citizens of Pleasant Valley aren't necessarily paying this tax unless they happen to shop at the district, and then citizens from outside of your area. Someone comes down from Liberty or over from Kansas City and they buy parts here, they're helping to pay for part of this development as well. I'm going to pause there and just see if there are any questions about CID. You may be they're all over the place. Liberty, we used to be the city or the general counsel for the historic downtown Liberty CID. We helped create that. Excelsior Springs has one in their historic downtown. Most TIF projects that you visit all have CIDs connected with them because they're actually a great way to create a new tax that didn't exist before that helps to pay down a TIF project sooner. So, but anyway, I will pause now and see if there are questions about CID.
I do have a question. Are they always 20 years in length?
I'm sorry, it broke up just a little bit.
20 years in length? Are the CIDs
yes,
always
they
that?
They didn't used to be. I'm kind of getting gray in the beard now. Good thing you don't have a video of me tonight. But back when I first started, these could be perpetual. Now, state statutes actually limit their duration, and I think it is to the 20-year mark. The board, if it needed to be longer than 20 years, the applicant could always come back and ask for an extension, which would be at the board's discretion. But the maximum time right now under statute is that 20.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I have several. I'm just trying to figure out how to ask it. You mentioned there's several things. You stated that, excuse me, RPPV Holdings would basically be a political subdivision and boundaries.
The CID would be, yes.
CID, okay. That's why I'm asking for clarity. And then the mayor asked the question I wanted to know. So the other question I have, let's say it goes over budget. Has projects like this gone over budget before, and how have both parties aligned to ensure that the city is not indebted if this should occur? I'm just curious, have we ever? Yeah, I need to know.
So the city would not be indebted in any way. In fact, on this proposed project or this proposed application, the developer would upfront all of the costs, and that essentially they are seeking a portion of those to be reimbursed through these tools. Okay. The CID itself, for example, that component, that 1% sales tax, I don't think we have any numbers at this point, or Kurt, you'll have to help me out if on that, as far as, if there are some basic numbers. I'm not seeing them here in my, oh, wait, never mind. Hang on. Let's see here. Chapter sales tax. CID, looks like the CID could produce about just a little over $3 million over the proposed time frame, which looks a little long on that one, but about $3 million on that. Now, if the project is built and everything goes bonkers, it's better than anything anybody could ever believe, then what a development agreement would say is after a certain point in time, or once we hit a certain number, it just cuts off. But the developer, also bears the risk that if it performs very poorly, and developers are very careful to be conservative in how they look at, the revenues would come in and so forth. But if it were to come in short, then that's just the developer's risk. If they were asking for $3 million and it only produces 2.5 over that time, then they're gonna, then they just won't get the incentives for the 500. Is it possible that someone could come back and ask for more? Sure, they could, but that's completely within the discretion of the Board of Aldermen at that time to determine whether they want to do that or not.
And when you say comes back and asks for more what? You can't increase.
Like more dollars, towards, it could be, like I said before, the CID has a statutory cap on the number of years. If they want to come back and say, hey, could you extend the CID for 3 more years or 5 more years or 6 more years or whatever the case may be, they can ask for that. But just like this will be at the discretion of the board here, perhaps in a few months, depending on where you end up tonight, in 20 years, whoever's in the Board of Aldermen seats at that time will be asked that question, and it'll be their opportunity to make a decision about it.
And that could only be 1%. It can't be any more than 1%. Is that correct?
Yes, that is a statutory maximum. CIDs may not charge any more than that 1%.
Okay, thank you.
So I do have another question. Has there been projects previously with RPPV at this scale or larger with other towns? Just curious.
From my perspective, we have not gotten that far into the due diligence. Is kind of a little bit why we're asking if from the baseline, are you guys okay with this concept before we dig further into it? I don't know, Mr. Peterson, do you have anything you could add to that?
I promise I was on point. I was actually talking about one of the last points Joe just raised. So can you repeat it, Joe? Because I was going to be ready to address that.
It's just a question of a little bit. It's the question, Kurt, of the experience of our PPV. I think the Alderman asked essentially, like, do they have other projects in the area? And I don't know that we've gotten that far with it in, where we are in the process.
We had, and it was not everybody that met, but we had, in the life cycle of a project, sometimes you start early and not everything is out for the full public, but eventually everything gets out for the full public. It's just a matter of timing. So we're still on that spectrum where we were able to allude to the immense credibility, experience, and reputation of the folks behind the project. But if it's okay with everybody, tonight maybe wouldn't be the time when the entire public at a public meeting. We do that, but it'll definitely be before this board would make a final decision. We would make that introduction, and so then the public would hear as well. But you have my word that there's no one in the world that would be disappointed with the experience and the reputation of the folks behind RPPV. RPPV state, I should have started this way, is a special purpose entity that you form for, like we do with any real estate project. So the entity itself, quote, doesn't have any experience. I should have said that first. You want to know the folks that are forming it and putting millions and millions of dollars in, and no one in the public will be disappointed when the time comes to tell everybody about that.
Okay.
And what Mr. Peterson just explained is actually pretty common. I mean, most developers do have a single purpose entity that is designed to shield, liability from the bigger company. I would just flat tell you, as the city's economic development council and also the city attorney, we would not let this go forward to you without, for a final approval without knowing who we're dealing with. So.
And I have one more. This is not Mr. Lauber's fault, being the best in the biz and what he does for sure, and his firm. Jennifer and his office, Jennifer Baird, has been daily, I look at the mayor to acknowledge it, daily working on this with me. And Joe is pitch hitting and doing a great job. The specifics, community improvement district, everything to the word Joe said was right about the CID. Other than that, everything that's been submitted is for the full statutory 27 years. And Joe's not wrong. It used to be that is what the statute says now, 27 years, and it's pretty common throughout the metro. That's what we do. And then he's also right, you can always come back. That's at the end of 27 years, which I sure hope I'm retired and everyone here doing something else too. But I want to be really clear on the record because it's in our term sheet and it's in the modeling that it's the 27 years. But otherwise, every word that he said is accurate.
Thank you, Kurt. I stand corrected. I hadn't refreshed my memory on that time frame on there, so that is that is correct. So, apologies for my misstatement.
So I do have one last question. I'm just thinking out loud, and hopefully when we do have more information from the holder, but I just curious, like 27 years, the commitment, and if it's sold off, would it be transferred to a new owner? And what conditions? I'm thinking out loud, maybe you can have answers for that in the future when you do a presentation. But I just think about Walmart. It'll open up a store in 10, 15 years. It goes somewhere else because the zoning and the pricing is, they don't get the benefits of it. And then they might go a block over to get the same benefits. So I'm just curious what the vision is, and if it's going to be here for more than 10, 15 years, or if it's going to be sold off and we're left holding the area. Just would like to have some clarity on that, if not now, in the near future.
Yeah, this will definitely be covered in the development agreement. Again, that's kind of that is going to get down to the fine-tuned details of this. So keep in mind, we are very big picture, very early in the process tonight, and it doesn't make sense to work out all those details if you don't like the baseline of the project. So with respect to, so we will have those details. If you guys decide to approve this term sheet this evening, that's going to green light a whole bunch of work to get done with respect to that. I think every redevelopment agreement does have provisions in it that would allow the applicant, who then becomes the developer, the ability to transfer the property if that is necessary. As a matter of fact, you all are doing it right now, right? Because this is a TIF project held by Star Development. And basically what they're asking is that if this project can go through, they would like to end their commitment and what they were supposed to do under the TIF and allow this to take over in its place. So, so there will be structures, there will be procedures to allow for some sort of a transfer if it becomes necessary. We hope in this case it won't become necessary, but if it does, just like what you're about to embark upon, is that it requires, full Board of Aldermen involvement and approval to make all those things happen.
That's fine. Thank you for the explanation. Looking forward to those questions being answered in the near future.
Oh yeah, you'll see a lot more detail. Does anybody have any further questions on the CID?
No, I don't think so.
All right, I'm gonna bump over then to the Chapter 100 component of this application request. You're probably like, why do you keep quoting some sort of a chapter out of a book? It is a little bit that, right? So it's, the book that we're referring to is the volumes of the Missouri Revised Statutes, or the Revised Statutes of Missouri, I should say. Chapter 100 is the chapter that covers all sorts of corporations. I need to back up. I started on my Urban Development Corporation spiel. For Chapter 100, we're dealing with industrial development bonds, Industrial Development Authority, the incentives that go with that. Chapter 100 is based upon a constitutional provision in Missouri's Constitution that allows certain amounts of tax abatement through a program for commercial enterprises in Missouri. And so it's kind of a weird structure. I'm going to describe it to you. But the way that Chapter 100 works is a company that is interested in building something or owning property and would like to partake of these incentives, they sell whatever property that they're talking about to the city, and then the city enters into a lease purchase agreement or like basically a sellback provision to sell it back to the company when the incentives are complete. You're probably scratching your head going, wow, that sounds like a weird thing. And I will tell you, you know, I've been doing these for over 20 years at this point. The very first one I ever did was for the city of Springfield, Missouri. They have a Kraft food plant down there, and Kraft Food wanted to put in a new production line in their factory. And so the production line is what is called personal property. And they did this Chapter 100 financing where they sold the production line to the city. The city leased it back to them, and then at the end, it gets sold back. So it's you know, it sounds funny. It's been something that's been going on for decades and decades. When you boil down to it, there are three different types of property that we'll discuss for this. So there's real property, right? So that's the ground that we're talking about. There are improvements to the real property. So those are the buildings that sit on the ground. And then thirdly, there is personal property, which would be like my example of the factory line, that I described for the Springfield project, the Kraft project, or you know, if you were building a grocery store, it could be the freezers in a grocery store. It could, you know, for this particular business, they may have some sort of lift equipment or, you know, cranes or hoists or something like that would help them equip the vehicles that will be equipped on this property. That may be something that would be part of the program where they would sell this equipment to the city, and then through a lease purchase agreement, they would, you know, this would be financed. Okay, so the financing, we talked about industrial, or in this, it talks about Chapter 100 bonds. So you may be familiar, probably very familiar with like a general obligation bond, a GO bond, where you have to go out and get voter approval when you get the authority to issue the bonds. You have your finance people come in and they go on the open marketplace and they sell a bond, and that investment into the city is essentially how cities borrow, okay? If you're familiar with that, sorry to do this to you, but forget it, because these are completely different bonds from that. These are what are more called special obligation bonds. So in this circumstance, to the extent that we use the bonds for that property abatement, a borrowing would occur to allow the property to be purchased, right? Whether that's real property, personal property, or improvements. And those bonds aren't sold on the open marketplace, but more typically, the company buys the bonds. They essentially finance it themselves, or maybe the company's very close partner, a banking partner, would buy the bonds, and you know, it's considered what I would call a close sale. Like everybody is, it's not arm's length. It's parties who all know each other that do the deal. Okay, so a couple things. When a city owns property, what do we know about city property ownership when it comes to taxes? City's property is tax exempt. Same thing here. To the extent that the city would own a component of this project, it would be tax exempt, which creates a savings because the property would be 100% abated during the time that the Chapter 100 financing is in place. Now, let's say it's too rich to have 100% abatement. What we then can do is we can enter into a pilot payment. So it's a payment in lieu of taxes where taxes wouldn't be due, but because 100% abatement is too rich for the deal, then we ask the developer to pay a certain percentage back as essentially a payment in lieu of taxes. So it feels like taxes to the city or to the other taxing jurisdictions, but taxes weren't due. So that's why we call it a pilot. The bonds themselves, like we're used to, you know, like there's debt service on bonds. Commonly, the way this works for Chapter 100 project is whatever the cost it was to borrow the property that is the subject of the incentives, essentially what happens in the lease purchase agreement is we charge rent to the company for owning its property in its building on its land. And surprise, surprise, the rent is equal to what the debt service to pay off the bonds would be, okay? So essentially that's how the financing kind of works. There's a borrowing that happens. Bonds are how cities borrow. The bonds are purchased typically by the company or its bank, and then it pays back the bonds, the debt service on the bonds to expire the bonds. And that's done through a lease purchase agreement where the rent is equal to the debt service for the bonds. And once everything's paid off, we sell the property back to the company. It goes back on the tax roll as it would have in any other normal circumstances without incentives. I'm going to add one last piece to this because I know that sounds very confusing, but that's why you pay us to worry about that kind of stuff for you, right? So, and I'm happy, I will answer questions here in a second. The last piece of the Chapter 100 puzzle is that, again, while the city owns it, there's tax exemption. And that includes tax exemption on the purchase of construction materials. So you might hear us, it's sales tax exemption on construction materials, STECM. You'll hear us say STECM. Love those anagrams, right? Anyway, so STECM, sales tax exemption on construction materials, is something that's important to the developer. It's an incentive that they're looking for because that can help offset, and make the cost of construction so much more affordable. Now, if the city of Pleasant Valley has a major supplier of construction materials, that is something that, we would have to factor in. But what we find in most cases is the cities where incentives are being done like this is those construction materials are being bought elsewhere. And so when that sales tax exemption hits, it's not reducing taxes in Pleasant Valley, it's probably reducing taxes elsewhere because it's tax exempt. So it's a benefit that can be provided through Chapter 100, but it doesn't, the city feels less burden of it, if you will. So, okay, I just threw a whole lot at you as far as how Chapter 100 works in general, without even talking about the project, but I'll pause and see if you have any questions about how that works.
Patrick.
Yeah, so you mentioned the word pilot, payment in lieu of taxes.
Yep.
I did not see pilot in the term sheet at all. Is that a component of the term sheet? Are pilots being included as a potential incentive for the city?
I think that, so Kurt, again, Mr. Peterson, if you would, I believe that right now we have the basic ask in place, but we have not yet been able to get to the due diligence, again, because that's a cost that's associated with these types of applications, that it doesn't make sense to go spend, maybe a couple $1,000s on that type of due diligence if you think the project is a dud. So what typically happens in these circumstances is we'll take a look at their ask, and then we'll take a look at what the incentives, if applied, what they would look like. And if the incentives as applied are too rich, they either create too much of a high return for a developer, right? Like we're essentially padding the developer's pockets, then we essentially claw that back. So again, while not in the term sheet here, the basic concept leads to negotiation of terms in a development agreement that we would bring to you later to say, hey, remember way back right before Christmas last year when we had originally talked to you about this? Here's where we ended up on the numbers with respect to the Chapter 100 abatements, and it did end up being too rich. And so we either did one of two things. We shortened down the time frame of the incentives because it'll pay off faster, or we applied some sort of a pilot payment, which means the taxing jurisdiction gets money sooner, but the incentives stay in place longer, if that makes sense. So we got a couple things that we can adjust with as we learn more about the project. If you greenlight it tonight, that would say, you know, do we get it done faster at a higher flow, or do we stretch it out a little bit but get money to the taxing jurisdiction sooner?
And this is Kurt Peterson. To answer the question from my perspective, which is a different way of saying the same thing, if you go to page 2 of the term sheet, under it, it looks like sometimes when city systems receive it, I see that it's messed up, at least in mine, the Roman numerals, the letters, so I'm gonna laugh and say, if you look under 2A3, which is actually the second thing, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's always weird. Spreadsheets are the worst, by the way, when they do that. But under 3, you'll see a description of chapter 100, and that's astute, you're right. This very important concept of a pilot, which the city and other taxing jurisdictions should and will care a lot about, doesn't show up in that paragraph. But the answer is that it speaks to the abatement, and it's kind of like one side of the coin versus the other. So for example, the proposal states that the base, so the taxes today, which are roughly about $25,000 for that whole property, will never be touched. We call that holding harmless the city and the taxing jurisdictions. But it's what happens above that in terms of what's abated. And this paragraph says during the first 10 years, the proposal is 100% of that increment would be abated. So the pilot would be the $25,000. I'm using rough numbers. Yep. But in the second 10-year period, the proposal will be 50% abatement. So then you can figure out, there's not a number there, there's a percentage, but it's that other 50% that becomes the pilot.
Is it the 25,000 plus 50%, or does the 25,000 get factored into the 50%?
Yeah, it depends. That's a very, very fine point that we'll work out in the future. But I can tell you're a math person, and that's a good question. It's so.
Yeah, so I'll just say my concern. Love the proposal, cool. A lot of this sounds fairly industry normal. 25,000 might not sound like a lot, but for a city like Pleasant Valley, it means a lot. It helps support our expenses today. What I don't want to have happen is we've been receiving taxes on that property of about 25,000 for lot storage. It's not an improved property. It's good land, but what I don't want to have happen is that suddenly drop to zero as soon as we, start to kick off the project, and then it stays zero for 10 years, and then we start seeing property tax. I get that you're projecting sales tax, fantastic. Those are all projections. It's your business is there to make money, so it's good.
We better have good sales. Yeah, we're in trouble after that.
But what we're caring about is the sales that's relevant to the city, that the ones that actually generate sales tax revenue for us, which is not 100% of the economic activity that occurs on that property. So that's my concern. I want to make sure that we don't enter this agreement and then have the tax base drop out on us for the next 10 years.
And I can assure you that our proposal is to actually protect the tax base. One interesting fact, you would think that there's a lot of value happening there right now, but that $25,000 number, to be clear, is all the tax jurisdictions. And I could peek in my notes and remind myself, but I think Pleasant Valley's shares maybe 6 to 7%. I might be a little bit off. So we need to boost activity. I mean, now I'm getting into sales mode, but I'm being real about it. We need to get more needs to happen there. Like, it's just not being put to good use. So, and back to the sales and taxable sales, if the mayor wants to, we can go into that tonight, because we certainly have modeled it and shared with the attorneys, and we have some really, what we think, really favorable projections for what this will do for the city and tax revenue, but it is definitely more on the sales tax side than property tax. So.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? I just want to make sure, when we were talking about the Chapter 100 bonds, we've got that lease purchase from the city incorporated in here, and I want to make sure that at no point the city is liable for any of that, in terms of if we would have to go out and get a public works piece of equipment and needed to have a loan to do that if someone went and looked at our financials, this would not show up on it.
I'll give Joe, as your attorney, the first crack at it, but I'd be happy to address it because it's a common
Right.
question.
Yeah, so again, I think that was the mayor speaking, but
Yes.
so here, again, the upfront cost of this project would be paid for by the developer. They're only seeking a reimbursement through these tools that would ultimately be approved if you're okay with this and approve this term sheet this evening. So to the extent, again, that bonds are issued, these are not city general obligation bonds. The city is not backing these bonds. If something in this project were to go sideways and fail, that risk of that financing would be on the developer. You know, the biggest risk to the city is kind of what you've been dealing with for the last, 10 years almost, is that we just, we would have another development for this land that was proposed and then didn't go through. So that's a pain that you already know. So, this gives us gives an opportunity for the city to breathe some sort of life into it beyond just the, the additional truck storage for the Ford plant in that. But again, the financial risk falls on the applicant, who will become the developer, and then potentially their bankers, depending on how the financing ultimately gets done.
Okay, anything you want to add?
No, just to say exactly, there's no risk to the city. In fact, the city would put the property back to us if we were in default under the Chapter 100 lease. So
Okay,
the city is in control.
okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right,
Okay, so the framework of the Chapter 100 has been provided at this point. So now I want to go back in and kind of look at the details of what's being proposed in that framework. So with respect to the property tax abatement, as Mr. Peterson shared when we were talking about the question on the abatement and the pilot, there's essentially would be the phase one that we talked about is the 72,000 square foot initial building. That would see 100% abatement for 10 years. So again, it would be the baseline taxes would continue to pass through the city. Anything above that baseline would be abated 100% for that 10 years. After 10 years, from years 11 through 20, that abatement would fall to 50%, which essentially on the flip side of that would be a 50% pilot on, again, the numbers above the baseline that's established. Now, there is that phase two that exists would mirror that. It would be for the additional 44,000 square foot building, roughly, and would, but I said mirror it, 100% abatement for 10 years and then 50% abatement for years 11 through 20. And through the structure, we can stagger this in that way with the phasing. So the total abatement would be projected somewhere around $5.1 million under those terms. And I think, Kurt, that's both phase one and phase two together, correct?
he's nodding yes.
Okay, nodding yes, okay. Okay, so that's the abatement side of things. So it's about $5.1 million incentive there. And then we talked about STECM, right? That sales tax exemption on construction materials. The value of that is projected to be right around just a little under $500,000, $496,000. So about 5.6 million is what you're looking at in Chapter 100 incentives. And then as we discussed previously when covering the CID, that's another 3 million, just a little over 3 million in incentives there. So what we got here all in, that puts us, what did I say? 8.6. Kurt, is that a good number? 8.6, 8.7?
That sounds about right. I was, Joe, if you don't mind, I thought this was a good moment before we move on to anything else, just to note that in the financing world, sorry, I keep leaning, there could be a lot of finance, like raise your hand if you're a finance person, right? But I keep going here because I heard the finance committee, right? You're going right here. We don't think in gross numbers, that's gross, because we're talking about a 27-year period of receiving reimbursement on something that we front up front, and then tax abatement again over a 20-year period, and then the other sales tax exemption, that is up front. But for those other two, we always talk, if you went back here and were just talking to us, we'd say, well, heck, that's really about, I have the real numbers, but I'll call half that because of the discount of time value of money. So we call it NPV, if you hear us, net present value. So while Joe's exactly right, what he's saying, and those numbers are big, when you compare it to our costs, which everything is about what we're in this partnership hopefully getting versus our costs, and those numbers, I'm just gonna be rough again, are about double the numbers when you put it against our today's costs. So happy to answer questions on that. And Joe's not wrong, it's just that's an additional thing we have to layer in. That's how we see it.
Okay.
The last piece I will add with respect to the kind of the numbers that are initially proposed is that over a 20-year period, assuming that this gets built according to what's been proposed, the city could probably see an additional benefit of $170,000 in additional property tax and about $10.1 million in sales tax revenues.
Okay. Any other points you want to make?
I don't have anything else on the incentives. I do have one little housekeeping measure once we're done with that, but I will pause to see if there are any questions on the incentives, as proposed in the term sheet. Again, Mr. Peterson may have an additional presentation to give, but that's where we're at on incentives.
Kurt, do you want to say anything else?
One, if you don't mind, Mayor, one more little thing, since Joe teed me up there, I was thinking, what else do I want to say? I would just say this after all these numbers, which are really big numbers to me, and I assume big numbers to you, that none of those things are the city writing checks. So when I look up into the sky and think about what's going on, we're able to save a little bit of money, which really helps us not paying sales tax on our construction materials. We're able to add a sales tax that the city doesn't have, that we would have in our little, whatever Joe called that jurisdiction right there, that project. So that doesn't affect the city, if you will. And the last one is property tax abatement, which is really helpful, which the city makes up, like I said, I should have looked, 6 or 7% of the overall mills. And so in that sense, that's very helpful. One could look at that like the city doing something. It's not really writing a check, but it's also, like we said, $25,000 a day is to all the taxing jurisdictions. And we're trying to, right the ship. So my only takeaway, Mayor, with all these incentives is it makes the project happen that otherwise wouldn't happen. And it is not coming and asking the city to, hey, would you write us a check this year? Would you guarantee our debt so we can pull this off? And on the flip side, and I know we're not getting the fine weeds, but working with Jennifer, Joe's partner, we have been able to provide early modeling of, well, look at the sales tax generation look like for the city. So the reverse of what I'm saying, this project, in a way, writes checks to the city as opposed to asking you to ever write a check to us or guarantee debt. That's just the last thing I wanted to, I know it's been said that they were going on. So thank you.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So you said in 20 years, an additional $170,000 in property tax, correct? Now, are you saying that's $8,500 each year, or we're anticipating $170,000 in property tax? That's my first question. And then you mentioned that there was a $10.1 million incentive over 20 years, which makes it about $500,000. Am I getting my numbers correct, or is that what I just want to make sure I understand what we're doing.
Yep. Let's go to the first one.
Yeah.
So the way we've modeled the property tax abatement is in 2 phases, because we've said from the very beginning, we hope, and given this group that's the track record behind them, I bet there will be a phase 2, but we're never going to overpromise. There will be phase 1, and we want to start construction next year if everything goes well here. And if there's a phase 2, great. So we've broken our modeling into phase 1 and phase 2, and a lot of the numbers we give are the aggregate, but I'm going to be very clear in saying all that. Let's do specific numbers on phase 1 if you don't mind.
That's fine.
And then we can go to phase 2 if you'd like.
Sure.
So on phase 1, the modeling right now over 20 years, we're talking about the property tax abatement, which suggests that the pilots, the payments that would be made after the exemption, would total for the city over 20 years, net present value, because that's the way we think, not gross, would be $117,000 and change. I'll just round it off, $117,000. Where Joe is getting his 180, I think he said, in that range, thousand. You can repeat it back.
You said $170,000.
Yeah, that's just better math than I can do in my head.
Gotcha.
So if I look at phase 2, that same equivalent is 53,000, which I will do it. That's 120 plus 50 is $170,000. So that kind of gives you the origin. And again, I'm repeating what I just said, but it's net present value. So the gross is going to be a lot more than that.
Okay.
To your second question,
Mm-hmm.
you might have to tee me up again.
All right, you stated that in 20 years, there should be approximately $10.1 million, and I kind of rounded down to like $500,000 a year. But is this now based only on phase 1 and phase 2? Are they combined estimates?
We're gonna get there. I just have to think about what we're talking about, the 10 million, what we would have been saying. And anybody raise your hand and tell me,
It
because
says
we'll get there.
10.1 million revenue.
Oh, I think you might be thinking of sales, maybe?
Yes.
Yes,
projected
sales
tax
sales
revenue.
Projected
to the city
sales
over
Thank you.
10
redevelopment.
I just had to catch on.
Yeah, that's fine, I didn't.
Now I have the context. We're
Yeah.
talking about 10 million, and now get me going.
I
So we're
feel
talking
like
about
I'm in
sales.
economics class again.
This
Go
is-
ahead.
Yeah, this is good. So annual sales is what we're talking about, and it's not annual sales overall, as one of the board members said, or Joe, or someone was making a really good point. I actually think it was board member Gallagher, if I remember right, was talking about. There's always a jokester, at every meeting. Talking about, we care about the sales that generate sales tax for the city, which I doubt we're about to dive off into the minutia, but I'll just say in Missouri, as a high level comment, when you talk about vehicle sales, it's not what you would necessarily think. It's very different than Kansas, by the way. Not far away, but they do it. It's the opposite of what Kansas does. And so the reason I'm saying all this is that projected sales of the business is actually more than the $10 million. But the reason we're focusing on that, I'll get my little cheat sheet that has the breakdown. The reason we're focusing on that is because we're dialing in on, with all of our experience, what portion of the annual sales that will happen at this project will be taxable and actually generate sales for the city. And so that number, as I look, is specifically, we believe, and we've intentionally, if you could just hear the private conversations that happen, intentionally been conservative. So you're hearing me whisper that we think it will be higher than this, but we don't want to underdeliver. So that number was 9.6 million is what we submitted to the city, which is focused on parts and rentals. I could go even deeper. I'm going to kind of stop right there. And the reason is because when those transactions happen to Missouri residents, which we've gone in and dialed in percentages of we think each one of those two types of transactions will be Missouri residents, that's when you will generate Pleasant Valley sales tax. That's the you rounded up $10 million.
Okay. All right.
I don't, just playing devil's advocate, because we're hearing great things.
Sure.
It is a conservative estimate. It could be higher. It could also be lower. It could also, it's entirely guesstimate. It's a model, it's a projection based off of current sales or estimated sales at existing locations and modeling that for a plant here in Pleasant Valley. So sales tax revenue goes to general fund. That is fantastic. That helps fund our city departments. If that number is lower and we're offsetting some of the potential taxes that we could be receiving through the incentives plan, that is resulting in less than what we thought we would get.
And you mean specifically this, or back and forth, the property, so the city property tax in the abatement, we need to make sure that the sales tax that's generated is higher than that. I agree, 100% agree with the intellect there, and it will be dwarfed by that. Yeah.
I'm just making the point. If it's always a guess. It's way better than what we've got going on right now in that property. So I don't want to completely say it's bad, but I just want to make sure that we're talking about the net benefit to the city and our ability to continue to provide services for the citizens. So
yes, sir.
So I have one last question. Just to clarify, you said phase 1, 20 years, pilot. you went from $117,000 in 20 years. And if you divide that over the 20 years, that would be $5,850. And then you stated that 9.6 million parks plus rental. Now, is that the first 20 years or is that phase 2? Because I'm trying to understand, because then it doesn't meet the $500,000, it meets like $480,000, $5. Just want to make sure our numbers are equated to what we're doing. Since you mentioned the reference phase 1, I just want to make sure at least that could be a good like progress to see how phase 2 is, since that's what we're really committing to, not phase 2 yet.
So I mean this as a compliment to your city. You will not believe it. Almost every question that has been asked here today has been asked by city leadership through legal counsel and back to me. So the good news is everybody's on the same page. Answers to these questions matter. So the answer to that question is, once again, we've been extremely conservative. So the sales tax, the sales number that you and I just talked about, the 9.6 million, is actually only based on phase 1. And we refuse to put in the modeling, even though it would show more return to the city. That's really what the point of it would be. We have not put it in there. We want to over deliver.
Okay. I think we can move on from here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe,
If we're, I'm sorry. Mayor.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, if we're ready to move on from the incentives, I do have just 2 little housekeeping matters there. They essentially are the last 3 bullet points of the memo that was in the packet. And so essentially that deals with like administrative costs and expenses. So 2 things that we always do for our clients when working with an applicant, such as Mr. Peterson and his client, is we do ask them to agree to an administrative fee in the development agreement, and that helps to offset the city's cost of utilizing their staff, or, you know, to some extent, if you were to need to bring in any sort of like contractor staff or something like that to help to offset any costs of that or out-of-pocket expenses when you're, you know, going through the ongoing administration of the development agreements. We build that in so that there's essentially money to help the city, you know, a little bit like, you know, you guys are familiar with, you know, the Hancock Amendment, and you can't do an unfunded mandate. Here, you know, we know that a big contract like this that's going to go on for years is going to require some city resources to track it, and we build a fee into that helps offset the city's cost to do that. The other thing that we do is we require all applicants for major incentive requests like this one to enter into a funding agreement. And what that funding agreement does is it causes the applicant to put on deposit with the city an amount of money. I think customarily it's like $25,000 or $20,000, something like that. I don't know, there may have been a different number negotiated already in this, but we have this pool, this pot of money that the developer puts on deposit with the city. And then as you utilize your contractors to assist you with that, whether that's us or you might engage somebody to review the finances or whatever the case may be, that you're using money that was set aside by the developer to do that rather than utilizing city funds while we're getting this up and running. The funding agreement has what's called an evergreen clause in it, and essentially if you use money out of that fund to pay an invoice that comes into you for having, you know, someone like, you know, like our firm again to review something, then you pay out of that, then you can submit the invoice to the developer and they're to replenish the fund to get it back up to the initial deposit amount. So again, the idea is the citizens of Pleasant Valley shouldn't be paying for the cost for the city and the Board of Aldermen and the mayor to be careful about and bring in professionals that can help them review this stuff as you go. And then that just becomes a cost that is associated with the development. It would ultimately be a line item in the budget, you know, just like, you know, concrete would be to, pour the floor for the building. So, I just wanted to point those two things out where we're trying to make sure that the city's covered for expenses that it might incur in this process.
I have a few questions. So then you're just saying that, what's the average cost, or basically this is a retainer that the Pleasant Valley will have to, basically, go into agreement with that, correct, for 25,000? Or will it be additional, or will it be set? And will there be addition? So if we use up the $25,000 with cost, development, other expenses, what else, is there like a clause, like we have to put more money into the retainer? Can you explain that?
So the city is not paying the money, the developer is. The developer is giving the city a pool of money to use so that the city can hire its own experts to look at this and give them advice on it. So it's developer money, not city money. Or if you spend money on your experts out of that pot, you can then submit that invoice to the developer and have them refill the pot so that we're always at the initial deposit level. So again, it's a protection for the city to make sure that the city's not out a bunch of money trying to pursue this as we go through it. That's a developer line item.
Okay, so I thank you for the explanation, but when we do have your presentation, it would be really nice to hear or see statistics of what's the average cost that people have, other towns have used this incentive. I'd be curious. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Joe?
That is all I have for this evening. So I appreciate, again, you letting me do this virtually this evening.
Thank you for joining us. Anything from the other side of the fence?
No, big ducks. Thanks so, Mayor. Thanks again for your time.
Okay. All right. So having had this discussion, let me find the paperwork.
Did he hang up?
You're still on with us, Joe?
Yes, I'll stay on and
Until
until
we
you tell me you
after-
want me to go. I figured I would at least stay on through your vote.
That's good.
Do you want
Serenity.
to take the agenda out of order so that we can move on Council Bill 3625 first?
Yes.
I make a motion to take the agenda out of order.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. We'll get to work. Mayor, is there anything else
Wait,
you want me
that's
to take
we
on?
haven't done
or-
Sorry, done that yet. I'll clarify, I'll clarify real
It was
quick.
an ordinance. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we had another resolution scheduled before the council bill, so we're just taking the agenda out of order so that we can move on this
I
first.
apologize. Yes.
You're totally fine.
Here we go. All right. I need Matthew to read Council Bill number 3625.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign a terms sheet with RPPV Holdings LLC related to a proposed incentive application.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion?
I would just request that when we do have a presentation of this information, that of the things that have been captured tonight will reflect the presentation.
Okay. Anything else? Clerk call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
No.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. I need you to read Council Bill number 3625 again.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign a terms sheet with RPPV Holdings LLC related to a proposed incentive application.
So moved.
Second?
Mhm. we're motioning and approving and seconding the Council Bill 3625 and adopting it as ordinance 3624.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Clerk call the roll.
Can we have discussion?
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry.
Linda, do you have a question that?
No. No, I would rather just.
Okay.
I mean, if there's reservations, I would hope that we talk about it.
I do. I should, yes, because we do need incentive. Landlocked, we're landlocked, and it's nice to have like industrial. However, we don't even have a grocery store, and we're really landlocked. I just really hope, I mean, $8,500 a month, or $5,850 a year. I just really hope that this really benefits the community and the jobs that are supposed to come, and that we are qualified to even get those jobs. That those are some of my reservations. And then, you know, we already have a commitment with an organization that really got a great still for over 20 years, you know, parking their cars there. I just really hope we're not going to be exploited again. That's my biggest concern.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I just hope that we have discussions. I want to make sure that if there's reservations, that we all understand them. If there's a valid concern that you have, let's air it, talk about it, and try to come to a common ground. We can't help fix what we don't know, and we don't know if you don't talk. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Clerk call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby.
No.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. Motion approved. Now let's go on to the resolution. Please read your resolution.
Do you want to like go whatever?
We're done.
Hey, Joe, we're done with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
absolutely fine. I
Appreciate you.
appreciate again this opportunity. So y'all have a great evening. I'll report back to Jennifer tomorrow. We'll get cranking with Mr. Peterson and get the project rolling for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. You've got your resolution in front of you. Go ahead and read the resolution 2025-12-15-01 so we can talk about it.
A resolution approving the closure of City Hall on December 26, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I do have some discussion. If you look at your resolution, you have a section 1 that says will be closed on December 26th. I would like to add a section 2 to that, and we do have an ordinance or a resolution that will reflect this, that December 26th shall be treated as a paid holiday this year, because we have a holiday on the 24th and the 25th. So I'd like to include the 26th for this year.
Which is a Friday.
Which is a Friday. And it basically would affect Public Works, because you're not required to be here. Yeah, unless it snows.
We're on call 24/7, 365.
So, if,
There's a 1% chance.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
On
if,
Christmas, literally 1%.
if you guys would do that amendment to add the section 2,
I move to approve the amendment that it become a paid holiday.
Second.
all right, clerk call the roll. Oh, discussion, any discussion? Sorry.
Yeah, so as far as discussion goes, we're talking about eligible employees. And
Yes.
It is those who, like administrative and public works. It doesn't impact police, it doesn't impact dispatch, it doesn't impact fire. Is that
Yes.
true? Okay.
Well, what do you mean it doesn't impact police or dispatch? mean, like,
Because you have to be here.
okay, well, I get that. I was making sure so we didn't get paid. Because that is impactful.
You don't get paid at all in 26 now.
Didn't you get
You know,
the
we're
memo
for
about
free.
doing it for
Now
free?
we're gonna share your check.
That's why we're paying them the holiday pay.
Clerk call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Oh, yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you need to read the resolution again? No. Okay, motion to approve and adopt the resolution number 2025-12-15-01 as amended. I hear a first and second.
I think with the resolution, we only need to do the one time.
No? Yes? Okay.
Thank you
Hear a
all.
motion to,
A motion to adjourn?
yes.
Yes.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Callaghan,
Yes.
Jacoby,
Yes.
Scarborough,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Showers,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. You guys need to stay for board meeting. Nope, not now.
No, we're just trying to get up for it.
Probably the longest one to do.
I should get cheese.
You like that memorized?
You should.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I still-
Give me a
I
second.
got a picture.
Go.
Like banners.
Go home, go bed.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
coming.
The liquid doesn't matter.
Go brownies?
No, take to go brownies.
Oh, they're very bad.
Hey, and look, it only raised, you know, boy.
Whatever you do with it.
Not bad. No, it's just.
Yay.
Yeah, close. Still high, but it was. There's a shredding box in there.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just take it home. It's all good.
You were calling in and I.
Okay.
Shut that off.
I feel